For millennia, Jews have had the sacred tradition of circumcising their children at a young age. Even though an increasing number of Gentiles are starting to circumcise themselves, it has been seen for most of history as a distinctly Jewish act. Many empires used circumcision to tell if someone was Jewish, and some even outlawed circumcision to make people stop practicing Judaism. This tradition is so fundamental to our religion, so strongly kept that all Jews, Reformed or ultra-Orthodox, circumcise their children. Despite this, many people don't even know where the commandment comes from, let alone why we do it. So, the commandment comes from, you guessed it, our Parshat, Lecha. Hashem instructs us to circumcise every male on the 8th day of the baby's life as part of a covenant between Abraham and God. Hashem will give us the land of Israel and make us into a huge nation, and in return will circumcise our males for generations to come. That's the traditional way the story is read. But why does God want us to fulfill our side of the covenant this specific way? In fact, we'd think that this would be something God wouldn't want us to do since 1, it harms our bodies, and 2, it's asur to do other permanent changes to the body, such as tattoos. Some suggest that although it may seem as though circumcision is bad for our health, new studies are coming out showing that it's actually healthy to circumcise oneself. Some claim that God knew of its health benefits and commanded us accordingly to show that even at times that it seems we're doing something for God by upholding our part of a deal, God is still looking over us and helping us. Another view is that it separated us from non-Jews in the past. Whereas no other nation ever circumcised their children as a nation, this separated a Jew from a Gentile, just like how kosher wine does so. Lastly, there's the view that God chose circumcision because Judaism is all about the combination of the physical and the spiritual. A circumcision gives us the constant physical reminder of our spiritual relationship with God, and thus puts the two on the same plane. The reason God chose circumcision, as opposed to, say, a cut on the hand, is because a circumcision takes place on the part of a male's body that could be considered the quote-unquote most physical, representing sex, arguably the quintessential example of a physical pleasure. While these are definitely possibilities, I have my own take on this. In Genesis, God told Abraham, "And you shall circumcise the flesh of your foreskin, and it shall be as a sign of a covenant between me and you." The Torah explicitly states that God commanded us to circumcise ourselves as a sign of the covenant between God and the Jews. It never says that the bris is the covenant. Furthermore, his side of the covenant is that he will give us the land of Israel and turn us into a big nation. But he hasn't always upheld this part of the deal. We didn't always possess Israel, and we're less than 0.5% of the global population, despite the fact that we've circumcised our kids for the majority of our history. So, what if God gave us this commandment to simply remind us of the real covenant between us, which isn't referring to circumcision? Our side of the covenant isn't referring to circumcision, but rather the Jews keeping the Torah as a whole and being a righteous nation. We are circumcised to remind us that God is always watching us, making sure we're keeping our side of the deal. If we don't keep our side of the deal, which we are constantly reminded about, we should also be reminded that God has the power to take away his part of the deal. God chose this specific commandment to show that he can always see what's happening during the most private parts of our life. Even in the intimacy of a bedroom, God is always watching us, and even in those most private moments, we must uphold the halachic and moral standards of the Torah. My interpretation suggests that for most, if not all, mitzvot ben adam l'makom are actually just to let us know that God is watching us, thus encouraging us to do mitzvot ben adam l'chavaro. Therefore, this suggests that all mitzvot, not just ben adam l'chavaro, cause you to help other people.